First up on this housekeeping side, folks, there in your packet, does all the board members, all the committee members have a packet? Yeah? Okay. On the second page, starting on the second page, is an application for preliminary certificate of eligibility for a 421A project that's happening on Empire Boulevard. The address is 830 Empire Boulevard. It's just an FYI for us. We have to take no action. You should read it. They're getting some sort of tax abatement for their project. So take a read. We're not involved in approving it or anything. We're just sending it as an FYI. And so as is customary, I send everything out to you folks. You know what's going on. All right? If you have any questions about that, let's email amongst each other, and we'll try to get the answers from whatever agency we need to clarify. Okay? So moving right along to our second item, the down zone update. As we discussed at our last meeting, we would like to have the committee go out, or agree to have the committee go out and canvass the district and see where the opportunities are to down zone.
There's no down zoning!
So, excuse me, that's not going to happen at this meeting, please, miss? That's not this kind of meeting. Thank you. And so, we know the challenges that come with this. There are a lot of examples out there right now. There's someone here from East Harlem. Marina, where are you?
I'm here.
Thank you for coming out. She was one of the community folks working on the East Harlem project. We're going to get more information from other projects that have happened in New York. So we're looking to get information from the Bushwick project, which is actually going on right now. They're in the middle of a conversation with the city. The East New York project. So we can take all those lessons learned before we even get started. Because the reality of the situation is that we may be wasting our time. Okay? And so our objective is to, we know what the community's interest is, because we've been having these conversations for a couple of years. And that's number one, to down zone or leave the zoning neutral so that you can't continue to build next door to someone, knock the house down and go to the park building. You know, that's 85% of our district is made up of blocks that are in that situation. That zoning is called R6. And zoning, there are a lot of different zoning classifications. That one's called R6. And that really represents the bulk of our district. And so as you walk the community and you see you know, a single-family or two-family apartment building, single-family, two-family home, and next door to it is a 5 or 6 story tower. What's going on is that that developer has the right to do that, and we can't do anything about it as a city. So what we'd love to see happen is a zoning change in those blocks so that can't happen anymore. So that's the bulk of our district. Okay, that's one. Two, we know that the Jewish community to the east, they would like to build larger single-family homes or larger two-family homes. So that's an area that we'd like to try and figure out how to accommodate them as a part of this overall downzoning. And three, we know that the city is trying to push affordable housing. And our big concern with affordable housing is when you build these things, they're going to be too tall. And so if we go down the line with this project, if it goes anywhere, what we're going to look for is minimizing the heights of these buildings, 8, 10, 12 stories max. So coming to this community and doing what's currently being planned, we're going to talk about this later as a committee, and doing what's planned on Franklin Avenue, which is a plan for a 37-story tower, kind of a non-stop, right, for this community. It doesn't make sense. And so what we'd like to see happen, if we can get any traction on some sort of a downzoning, is limit the heights of these new buildings for the so-called affordable housing that the city is trying to implement. Okay? Any questions? Community members? Yes.
And we may want to table this for a later discussion,
Yeah.
but I'm still concerned when we talk about rezoning that we're opening ourselves up to the whole MIE process. And the fact that, like on Franklin Avenue, we try to downzone our area, we get a zoning, and then a developer comes along and says, hey, I'm going to put some affordable housing, so let me build a 40-story building on this lot, even though it's an R4.
Right.
So we're gonna be right back where we are now, but worse because we're opening the whole community actually.
So maybe we should come back to it, but,
Yeah,
you know,
come back to it.
the one thing that I wish I had that map that we went over last, a few months ago, that showed all the areas that that could possibly happen. So we know where those areas are, right?
Technically, it can happen anywhere in the community that's rezoned, because right now, we haven't been rezoned, so we're not eligible for MIH right now.
It can happen anywhere in the community because, so let's say the 85%
If they buy enough lots, it can.
but let's say the 85% of the community that we're trying to downzone, let's say we get that done. It can't happen in those blocks, right?
Why?
Because they will be, the zoning will be changed.
Yeah, but the zoning is changed now on Franklin Avenue, and they want to rezone it to a 9X.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's, I think it's much more comprehensive than that. It's not that simple, and you know, I think we all know it's not that straightforward. And I think we get to that as we go through the exercise. And the reality is, maybe we don't move forward, right? Yes.
I think it's important to keep in mind that that we rejected everything that's come before the committee that's MIH based, including the armory, and I think that's clearly like the stance of tenants. So until MIH is no longer
The law.
policy or the law, I mean, we can have the discussions, but we don't want. I don't think we want the city to come in and start talking about. Like, we know that's not adequate. So, you know, I think we've been pretty consistent in terms of how we've dealt with those things. So whether it's a neighborhood-wide rezoning or a specific rezoning, MIH is not going to, it's not good enough.
Right.
So, it's
And to that end, I think this Franklin Avenue project is going to be an opportunity for us to get more out of the city. Use that as an opportunity to get what people want out of MIH in that program. Because we'll come to that in a second. But any way you slice it, if that project moves forward, we're going to have to roll up our sleeves and go to bat for this community. Period. Because right now you're looking at, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself with that, but I would like to, Marina, where are you?
I'm here.
Can you just give us a few minutes of what happened with that project in East Harlem? Marina was one of the local organizations that was working with the city and the community board on the project.
So the city spent a lot of money, over $500,000 to fund local nonprofits to be facilitators for what they call the community planning process, and along the lines of participatory budgeting and all that. Most of the people that were involved in the process were executive directors, stakeholders, executive directors of very large nonprofit institutions that were reliant on the city for major funding, as well as stakeholders like property owners, large property owners, business owners. So it was a skewed process. And anyone who went to these planning meetings, whenever we asked a question, we were ignored. De Blasio himself came to East Harlem and told us straight out that we don't know what we're talking about. But we worked with a lot of people all over the city and, experts. And I really recommend that you guys read some of this stuff. Zoned Out by Tom Bengati.
I think Tom Agati's in the room. There he is. All right.
And there's another one. But this stuff has been in the news. Zoned Out is actually, it's like deja vu all over again, because Zoned Out tells the story of Harlem and Williamsburg and how under Bloomberg, and I was also a part of that, he's made these community gatherings, these planning meetings, and folks would come in from the city agencies and say things like, oh, this is great, you want this here, right? Okay, great. And then the next thing you know, you're quoted in a book as saying you support this. I signed into a meeting and I ended up in a book for the East Harlem Neighborhood Plan listing me and my organization, East Harlem Preservation, as one of the community supporters. It was very disingenuous and not inclusive process. They went in with an agenda, which was to upzone East Harlem, which is a residential tenement community, 5, 6, 7 stories. And they want to now, they approved, despite overwhelming objections, they approved upzoning on 3rd Avenue. If you've ever been up to East Harlem, it's 1, 2, 3 stories. They're going to allow developers to go up to 30, 35 stories in exchange for what they're saying is affordable housing. We contested that because it's not actually affordable to the people in East Harlem. It also does not allow people who are homeless to qualify and to get in. So it does nothing for the housing crisis in New York. It's a middle to high income housing plan. That's what de Blasio's housing plan is. He's targeted 14 communities in New York City that are mostly communities of color, Black and Latino communities, and historically affordable or low-income communities. And by contrary, they go up to Riverdale and they preserve and downzone. You know, when he proposed some upzoning in somewhere way out in Queens, people said, no, absolutely not. He hasn't dared even approach anyone on Staten Island. It's about political leverage. It's more about real estate and answering to the realtors than anything that will benefit your community. We are not going to see any benefit in Harlem for the people that live there. My son will not be able to move out of the sofa where he sleeps on because he can't afford an apartment at this point, and he can't stay in East Harlem. So when they come to you with these plans, and they may call some of it downzoning, we're going to preserve the mid-blocks, they said to us, in exchange for 30 to 35-story buildings. The city has no control over the real estate industry. They can't even monitor rent regulations, landlords who are harassing, and we've read all about this over and over again. They can't even manage that sort of, you think that they're going to be able to track